So please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. And Trustee Hollenbach, would you please lead us?
Sure. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And Madam Clerk, would you please take the roll?
Yes. Trustee Drapka?
President accounted for.
Trustee Hollenbach?
Here.
Supervisor Wilt?
Here.
Let the records know clerk Blas in attendance.
To the best of my knowledge, definitely Trustee Clark is out of town. She's unable to be here tonight, but to the best of my knowledge, Trustee Lupfer should be here shortly. He gave no indication yesterday when I saw him that he would not be here, so I trust that he will be joining us. Okay, we have the minutes of the December 12th meeting in our packets. What is your pleasure?
Make a motion, we approve the minutes from December 12, 2017.
Second.
I hear a motion and a second. Is there any discussion, any corrections or additions? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion is carried. Do we have any communications?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, those were actually given to, copies were sent to everyone of those.
There's a
two.
letter in here from
Yes.
the UCP Seguin to Tim Hollenbach, thanking us on behalf of all of us for their, and the Riverside Mental Health Board for their generous grant of $15,000 last year to benefit the many Riverside Township residents. Goes on about the training and all of their different activities. So for you, anybody would like to see this, and it lists the cost for 2018 for Riverside Township participants.
I have that
So,
already.
I don't know if anybody's interested in seeing this. It'll be in the records.
And I didn't mean to dismiss those other correspondence. It is correspondence, as well, you might want to reference it just for point of interest, but everybody has copies
We
of those.
received a letter from Sandy, I'm not sure how you say that name, do you know Vera?
I would say Briolot.
Briolot, from the Riverside Dance Club, saying that they're very interested in holding Riverside Dance Club dances in the Township Hall upstairs with alcohol, and that they would like to rent it for coming events. We also received a letter from the Riverside Juniors Women's Charity expressing interest in holding events upstairs in the auditorium with the inclusion of alcoholic beverage sales. We also received a letter from the American Brain Tumor Association. It says that they were founded in 1973. That we were very generous in allowing their events team to use room 4 for a recent winter planning meeting. And they thank us for that. And that's the extent of our communication.
Thank you. Nothing that needs immediate action, so thank you very much. Visitors' remarks.
Good evening. I'm Fran Sikowitz, Riverside Township Assessor. Just wanted to give you a report on what's been happening in property tax land. The senior exemption renewal applications have been mailed by Cook County, so in the next couple of days they will hit all senior mailboxes who've received these exemptions in the past. So that includes the regular senior exemption and also the senior freeze exemption. So seniors get these booklets in the mail, and they have to fill them out, and we encourage them to return them to our office where we make copies and keep track of them as they get filtered through to Cook County. We will start calling about 200 plus of our seniors to see if anyone needs assistance and to remind them about the form. They're always very appreciative because sometimes the forms get lost in the mail or they're out of town when it comes, so they always appreciate having a little bit of a reminder about that form. It's very important to them, and it does save them quite a bit of money, so you can't blame them. I will be setting up space in North Riverside Village Commons Building on Monday, January 22nd from 10 until 3 to assist seniors in North Riverside who need that assistance a little closer to home. So I'm working on another day with North Riverside, another day that week, trying to get there another day that week or the week after as well. So we do have at least one day in the books there. And so that'll keep us busy. The first round of renewals is due in the Cook County Assessor's Office on February 7th. So that's what's going on.
Did you want to comment at all about the hearing that you went to on
Sure.
the township's behalf?
Sure,
That'd be great.
yes.
Thank you.
So there was a variance hearing at Cook County for one of the parcels in the Riverside lawn. And the gentleman was asking for a variance to build a new single-family home on a lot that currently has about over 100-year-old home on it. The home has been abandoned, and he wants to obviously build a new single-family home. I'm not sure what the square footage is, but the current size of the lot is too small for building under the current ordinances, so he had to ask for a variance, and he was granted the variance. The lot is close to 39th Street. The correct address is on Columbus Boulevard. I did notice that for some reason the address was changed to 39th Street, but the lot does not sit on 39th Street.
It's 38.
There's a lot between 39th Street and his property. So he was granted the variance. I do not know what other communications he has going on with the building and zoning department downtown. So obviously, if they guided him toward a variance, he might have had some other issues that he had to take care of too. So I haven't heard a lot of information from Cook County about exactly how ordinances might be changing or what exactly they're expecting to happen in Riverside Lawn. I do know they have not begun tearing down any of the properties which were purchased, and they're probably waiting till the end of winter, I imagine. So it was a very informative meeting. I was glad I went because it made me feel that Cook County does know what's going on. There were a couple representatives from different departments from building and zoning. So,
Well, thank you. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
Fran did give me a very thorough report that I can share with you if any of you want to see it. But it was, we were kind of put off a little bit because the notice for it was supposed to go to all the surrounding communities. The township never got notice of it. Only the villages did. And so Fran happened to get it forwarded from the village of Riverside, and we discussed it, and she was kind enough to attend that hearing, and so we're really being excluded, but she's given me some contact information, so I'm going to follow up with them to see what their intent is in terms of working with the township in terms of the.
I just have a question, Fran. Why would somebody build a new house in Riverside Lawn? They can't get flood insurance, correct?
I feel like I don't have any correct information about what's been going on there. I've been giving all kinds of different information, and I'm not sure. So you need flood insurance if you have a mortgage. If he doesn't have a mortgage, he doesn't need flood insurance. So
I'm just amazed.
Some areas of back there in the lawn don't flood though. If you're closer up towards 39th Street.
there you know,
But there are very few.
some of them are not in the 100-year floodplain, but there are very few that are not in an inundation area. So this particular property, I do not know for certain what its flooding history is, but it was abandoned some years ago, I think pretty close to 2013 when we had the last flood. So, and it's not that far from the river. But at the same time, it is on 39th Street. So, and who's to say now, once they remove some of these buildings, if the rest of the land will saturate more of the water and maybe less of it will come to 39th Street, who knows what is going to happen. But it is a flood-prone area, and who knows what the future will bring to that. So, and I'm kind of puzzled. Quite honestly, I am kind of puzzled at why Cook County would allow permits to be pulled for this area to build new homes.
I'm
On the one
surprised too. It's like counterproductive.
Yeah, we were told initially that, you know, people would not be able to build there anymore, so, but they obviously changed their mind.
My question to you is, when can residents start appealing their taxes?
So we haven't heard from Joe Barrios about the beginning of the 2018 appeal period yet. We will probably hear within the next month. We usually open between now and mid-February. So this year is a reassessment year for the city, and I think after all the press that he's gotten, that he's probably going to be very careful about assessing the city this year. So maybe it'll take a little longer. But we usually are by mid-February, we at least know the dates that we're going to be open. So, and we have about 1,000 names in our constant contact file that we will be sending out emails to once we do hear from Assessor Barrios. So we're prepared.
Oh, one more thing. My neighbor, Marie Dufek, came to see you
Yes.
a couple of weeks ago, I believe. She was thrilled with how you handled things and how you helped her.
Oh, good.
And I thank you very much for doing that. You do a great job for us.
You're welcome.
And I sent
Yes.
Marie to you. So,
Yes. Yes.
You did a great job.
She was a pleasure to help. And speaking of that particular situation, there was a lot of concern about prepayment of first installment taxes, and the Cook County Treasurer's Office was one of the best offices to follow up on having an easy way for their people to prepay their taxes. Within days, they had fixed their website so that you could download a tax bill and pay it online. You could print it out to pay it at Chase Bank or send it to the Cook County Treasurer's Office. She had people working on Sunday, December 31st. She was handing out baklava and cookies to people who came in, and she made it so easy compared to some of the other reports I was hearing about other counties. So I think it went really smoothly. They collected a lot of money in prepayments.
Personally, I think it was easier to prepay than it normally is to pay.
Yes, I agree.
I couldn't believe it, how
Yes.
smoothly that went.
So it was thanks to Maria Pappas' office that I was able to provide that kind of support to Marie Dupont and people like her. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Frank.
All right, any comments? I see we have another visitor. Did you sign in?
Oh, what did?
Did you want to speak to some issue?
Thank you, Supervisor. I'm Allison Scanlon. I'm a Riverside resident, and I actually came for your discussion under old business about the rental policy, coming not only as an interested resident, but also as a member of the Riverside Junior Women's Charity. So I don't actually have a formal statement. I could give a formal statement when you're, discussing that in your old business, but really just came to hang out with you guys.
That's fine. If you
Thanks.
sign in,
Welcome.
and then we'll invite your comments at that point.
Thank you, Supervisor.
All righty, and then, my comments, Fran has already touched on some of it. You have materials in your packets from Barnaby Waters regarding the building restoration and preservation study that was discussed at our last meeting. The building rental, I've been tweaking a few things, trying to put some numbers together. I think that we can, when we get to that point, we can probably come to some conclusion and get this moving. There is a program that Trustee Clark is preparing for the community for Saturday, February 24th at 3 p.m. And that's, as she had mentioned, a panel on the opioid crisis. And we've been given direction toward a couple of local people that could help us a great deal with it. People who work with it, social workers and the police department and such. So we should have a pretty good program coming together. It's Saturday, February 24th at 3 p.m. here in the town hall.
I've also reached out to our consultant, Dr. John Shatitsky, and he has agreed to help in any way possible. I also would like to, I'll discuss with Supervisor Wilt and Trustee Clark. Lyons Township has it's a module, if it will, and it says Hidden in Plain Sight, where it can teach you where to look in your kid's bedroom for evidence of alcohol or drug abuse. And I've heard it's a real good. So I will, after I discuss it with Trustee Clark and Supervisor Wilt, we'll see if we can proceed with that.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And otherwise, we handed out, I believe it was 34 Christmas dinners. It's a little bit less at Christmas than at Thanksgiving. I think maybe people have extended family that helps more at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just want to tell you that although people are pretty good about bringing back the tote bags, we've run out of them. So we're waiting for some to come back. So I'm going to place another order so that we don't have to, go to plastic bags. But I think it's a dignified way of people who get food pantry assistance to walk out of here with some assistance. And other than that, I really don't have anything much to report. Between the cold, I was happy not to have any incidents in the building, and we really didn't have a lot of traffic coming in. It was interesting on how to heat and cool the office, because you can turn on the radiator for a few minutes, but then it gets too hot, and then you're coasting for a while. So it's an interesting exercise. Yes, gotta love that. And yeah, that's all I have for now. Trustees, any reports? Nope. All righty. Then mental health, do you have anything to report?
Well, we did some strategic planning last month. We didn't have a meeting in December. We did some strategic planning. We've made some decisions. We are going to sit down, because our grant process is coming into play by March. So we're going to sit down with our core agencies and go through what we want from them going forward, to make sure. We are also looking at giving some discretionary grants to a few areas that I will be able to bring up to you and give you more of an update next month. But the strategic planning proved to be very beneficial, but we're going to need to do more. So
did you do it on your own, or did you have a facilitator to assist you?
We did it on our own.
Very good.
John, our consultant, is very, very good at this stuff, so he moves us along in the right direction on that.
That's good. That's good. Sometimes it's good to have somebody who's a little bit outside the box
Absolutely.
to keep you on track. Very good. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Then let's move on to old business and discussion of the changes to the town hall room rental policy. As I said, I've been trying to put some numbers and anticipate what there might be. I didn't deal with all the rooms yet. I did have one request that was just too big for, their numbers just don't fit the capacity of any of our rooms. So I had to say, no, that's not one to test it on. We don't want to try it out on one that's going to be bursting the building at the seams. But as you all received today an email regarding perhaps we should do a test run, allow a few test cases and then go forward with that. But we haven't actually even voted on whether to allow it under the right circumstances. So I'm not looking for a vote tonight, but I think maybe this is something that should go on the agenda as a decision for next month. I will give you I will share the benefit of my work in progress. I've also spoken with an insurance agent about, what it would cost us to do that. I've been trying to look at what the costs would be of having staffers, because I think if we open it up to these bigger things, although for meetings and such we allow organizations to police themselves, I really think that we should have a staff member on duty during a bigger event where there might be alcohol, even if it were, I don't know, a church or whatever we think would be the most docile group of people. Certainly things can come up, especially when you're running a new program. So I, want to factor in the cost of having somebody either who's a part-timer or who's getting overtime or whatever, as well as these other factors. And I'm getting pretty close to putting together a packet, but I'm sorry, last few days just kind of got away, and I was not able to put together everything that I wanted to.
Mm-hmm. On that, it seems to me, correct me if I'm wrong, but there seems to be a great interest in this.
It really does.
And I'm thrilled about it, really. I really am. I think it's a great idea. The one thing that keeps reverting back into my mind, and as I know that Supervisor Wilt has been in contact with the village, but I kind of want to know if they're on board or do what you want, or because they're going to be a part of this, because they have to issue a liquor license. So I'd be interested to hear what President Sells has to say, even the village manager, the trustees. I'd be very interested to hear what they had to say. But I agree with you. I think we should move forward.
Yeah, I agree, and I think I know we have been discussing this for quite some time. And I know that we came up with a lot of good ideas. I don't know if a test case is really necessary, because as we have been discussing, it appears to me that each and every single one of these would need board approval, right?
Right. That
So
was what the
even if
attorney
we have
advised.
a policy that says, okay, we're gonna have a rental that allows alcohol, well, okay, so let's say, Joe Smith applies for a rental to have alcohol, that comes to us, and we would have to vote on that because of the alcohol stipulation. The rest of the room policies, doesn't matter, you can sign off on that, right? As supervisor, you can just do that. But because it's an alcohol-based, it's my understanding from our discussions for the past couple of months, it has to come here anyway. So we really there's no test case scenario or test, then there's no point to it. Also, I know that we had discussed previously to allow a certain number, to only take a certain number of requests, right?
Per year.
To put a limitation on how many we accept, right? So if there's, say, 20 that come in, all right, 20 requests, that we say it's in the policy that says we will only accept 12, up to 12, and allow 12 events per year to have alcohol, or something to that effect.
Right.
That was being discussed. So I think that having that in there also, that caveat kind of negates the need for a test policy or a test case. Let's just vote on the package that Supervisor has been working on. I know that you've been working on it diligently. So let's just vote on something when it's ready. Right. Let's vote on something like that. Maybe a couple more tweaks or, whatever. Come back and then go ahead and just vote on it. I don't feel it necessary to go ahead.
I agree, because once we have a policy in place and then
Right.
these test projects, I do see where Trustee Clark was coming from. But if we do these test projects, what happens, we should come up with a policy first and then go on. We can always revise the policy.
Right.
Right.
And, if we do a test and it turns out that it's not working out the way we want, well, you let this one do it. We've set a precedent, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So I think you're absolutely right on that, Trustee
Yeah.
Brown.
If I may, the record will reflect that Trustee Lupfer has joined us at this point.
I am
Thank you.
indeed.
Thanks.
I'd be also interested to hear from the Junior
Yes.
Women's Club on your comments on all this.
Hello, so thank you again. My name is Allison Scanlon. I'm a resident of Riverside and a longtime member of the Riverside Junior Women's Charity. And before I answer your question, since you're here, I would like to thank you for all of the support that you give to the Riverside Juniors. As you know, we host our monthly meetings here. We also have annual community service events, like our annual Breakfast with Santa, which we just had in December. And we so thank you and the support of your staff for those events. We couldn't have them, we couldn't have our monthly meetings without your help and support, so thank you so much on behalf of Juniors for that. So Juniors was very excited when we heard that you were considering, once again, allowing events with alcohol to be held here in the Township Hall. And I can recall going to RAC fundraisers when they had alcohol and enjoyed it. So we are always on the hunt for locations to hold our events that are local, that allow us, for folks in the community to come and potentially walk or bike and not have to drive long distances to go to the event, because that helps us to increase attendance from local folks. But also having it in a building such as the Township Hall, which is truly a treasure for Riverside. When we have folks from outside of our community coming, it's certainly a show place for us to have the events. So we found that the Riverside Juniors is focused on aiding our local community members, the greater Riverside area, through community service events, through helping folks when they're in need of trouble. We provide meals and other support for families who are going through hard times or celebrating the joining of a new baby to their family. We provide meals and such. We also do community service collections every season, where we collect goods and services and gift cards for different organizations who support members of the Township of Riverside. But we raise our funds through fundraisers, and the money that we raise goes directly to organizations that aid older adults, children with long-term medical conditions, homeless women, women who are battered, veterans returning and trying to return from their time in service and trying to re-engage in the workforce and have a place to live, as well as community events such as the bike rodeo and the 4th of July concert and the 4th of July parade and such. So all of the money we raise, we try to turn back into the community. And when we're looking for spaces to hold our events, as you said, proximity is very key for us, but also what we found over time, since we've done so many fundraisers over the last 8 years we've been in existence. I haven't been in that long, but we found that when we go to places where we use the goods and services provided, like if we go to a restaurant or other facility like that, it minimizes the funds that we can turn back over to the organizations, because we have to pay for their alcohol and their food, which is right, they're in a business to earn money, so we're all about that. But unfortunately, it does limit how much money we can then turn back over to these organizations who are in such great need for their clientele. So when we have it at a location like the Town Hall, or St. Mary's has been very generous to us, and the train station, the Scout Cabin, when we have it in these other areas in town, we can then seek donations of food and alcohol, which then allows us to turn more money back over to these organizations. So again, we're very thrilled that you're even considering allowing alcohol events again here at the Town Hall. And if you have any questions about how we run our events, or other things about how we would handle the alcohol, how we've handled it at the train station when we had events there through the, that we run through the village, or the Scout Cabin, I'm happy to answer them now, or later, you can contact me, or the supervisor can contact me to answer those questions.
I think later, let us get a policy in place, and then when you make your application, if you decide to do it here, I think then we'd have some questions, but the Junior Women's Club is a terrific organization. And thanks for coming out.
Okay, thank you.
I believe the Township Food Pantry was a recipient of your largesse, so thank you for that.
Yeah, that's a wonderful organization for a wonderful service for the town, and we're very happy to support that through donations of food when people come to some of our events. That's been our key fundraiser, as well as money that we raise and we then turn back over to the food pantry.
We appreciate that very much. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much.
Thanks for coming out.
So I do have a question. What is the next step for?
Well, just before you came in, we were discussing that we think that that we need to, I've tweaked some of the things that we've discussed, and I think that by next month, we should come to a decision about allowing the policy to go forward. It's been pointed out before you arrived that we have to approve every single event anyway as a board, as was pointed out by our legal counsel. Each of these groups is going to have to get the permits from the village anyway. So there's a lot of protections there. I have spoken with an insurance agent about what it would be. He doesn't think it's going to be terribly expensive, but he's going to get me a specific quote. And I'm hoping that we could go forward. And we're also going to limit the number of events per year anyway, just so that we can keep control. But I've been trying to put some numbers together as to what the costs would be, allowing for having somebody on staff in the building during such events. Certainly, bigger events would command somebody from the staff to be here. So, for the agenda for next month, I'm going to, as this develops, I will send you drafts of what I think it should look like, and you can comment on that, and then at the next meeting, we'll put on the agenda a decision as to setting the policy, or lifting perhaps the ban, if I like it. Okay? Very good. Then we'll move on to the proposal for the report with analysis of exterior town hall building needs, which was how he described what he would be sending me anyway. So I did meet with Public Works as well as Barnaby Waters regarding what they were doing. As we discussed last month, this all came up because the village has observed, actually their first big project is going to have to be their roof. They have a flat roof and there's some issues, so they have to deal with that. But in doing so, that will also affect some of the brickwork and so forth. So that was why they had to go forward and start on the process. And of course, they have worked with this particular architectural firm for the study. And I just received this yesterday, and I was out of the office most of today on one thing or another, so I haven't even digested it that much. All I can tell you is it's pretty expensive, is my view of it. And so, you know, I don't know what your pleasure is. The village anticipates that the first thing on their agenda when the weather breaks in the spring would probably be the roof first, and they think that budget-wise, they would probably have to wait another year to get into the tuck pointing and brickwork and stonework and so forth. So I don't know that we have to rush into this. You might want to take a little while to digest this report that most of you just received, as did I, and see if we want to go with this, or if we just want to get an estimate for the repairs of the areas that we recognize that we do have. This study would include, you know, kind of long view things, so he indicated for our future budgeting, so that we could identify, okay, the roof has this kind of a lifespan, the brickwork has this kind of a lifespan, stairs are going to need this, and, you know, so that we could have kind of a major overview. But I don't know if we want something with this larger scope at this point. So unless you've digested it better than I have, I would say maybe this is, again, something for decision at the next meeting.
I agree.
I have a couple questions. So, first of all, where did this come from with the Brush Architects?
So this, I met with Ed Bailey, Kevin Karatko, and Barnaby Waters, who apparently works with Brush Architects. His business card says that that what he does is building restoration and preservation. And he partners with some groups and some organizations, and so this was the proposal. Some of the things that came out of that meeting, for example, were that it appears as they dig deeper and have done some minor investigation into their area, that indeed the bead in the mortar was originally red, probably, but they're not absolutely sure about that yet. So they would have to analyze the mortar. Their concern for them is that they're losing, or his concern for us was that we might be losing heat through the roof. His early observation was that some of the streaking would indicate that because the leakage of heat through the roof heats up the copper, and then that causes some of those streaks on the roof. He said that they could and would inspect the building's performance. How best recommend perhaps to keep the attic cool, which would extend the roof life. They also would work with us to get a better grasp of who owns what, pull out all of the former studies, all of the proposed agreements that we talked about that never happened between the village and the township, and try to identify some of that.
They would do this?
Well, they would work with us. We would pull out what we had, and they would try to come to some conclusion. The village indicated, they're probably looking at taking down that old youth center building because it just doesn't fit the rest of the riverfront river view. But that's not a decision that's ready to be made, but that's kind of the leanings of a lot of people. The Preservation Commission would be involved with this. And so then I said, well, I can't tell you anything until my board can review what the scope of the work would be, what we would get out of it, and so forth. And so, like I said, this was delivered yesterday.
So did we get an answer about what they want to do with this mortar or their roof part? I mean, is that part of the building that they want to fix, is that technically ours?
No,
or is there theirs?
No, that's theirs. So they're talking about this extension to the building that was built sometime in the 20s, teens, something like that. And so, but it would be a natural time, of course, to review, and having walked around the building already before with Ed Bailey, yes, there are areas that our building also needs some work. There are some things that might have to come before an overall project. If they're not going to get to the tuck pointing until more than a year from now, we may have to take some more emergency measures because I indicated to you there are some areas that look like there's some deterioration that probably needs addressing. Whether we do any cosmetic mortar at that point or grind some out later and put that in to make it match the rest, that's another story. But I can't even give you a recommendation because this came in too late to study yesterday and I didn't have the opportunity today.
Well, I've looked through it, and I think for $20,000, well, for this kind of organization, they don't think that's going to be that much money. I think they wouldn't even be giving us a scope of work, and I would expect at least for something of that much money that we would get a scope of work, meaning this is what you should do. They're not even talking about giving us that. They wouldn't even develop or refine the scope of work. They wouldn't even have a design development. They wouldn't even get into bidding. I mean, if we're going to hire a consultant to come in and an architect, I would hope that they would get us to that point, to where
Right.
at least we get a scope of work saying, this is what we're talking about, not pie in the sky
Right,
stuff,
well,
which is what it
and
appears.
my preliminary just glance through it looked like, yeah, that's a lot of money for not a lot of.
For not a lot of
bang.
deliverables.
So,
And then the other question I always have is the hourly schedule for the managing principal, the project manager, the architect, and production support. Those expenses tend to go haywire if they're not defined clearly beforehand, and a not to exceed amount and that kind of thing.
Right.
I mean, that's the scary amount. You know, your managing partner and a project manager meet for 2 hours and a half, that's $1,000. You know, I mean, so I think it's great. I think we do need to do it, but I agree with you that we should take it slow, figure out what the deliverables are, and go from there.
Right.
Yeah, I hate to, I had a client who wanted to re-tuck point the whole house because the south side needed to be done, and he wanted to match it. And the contractor said, absolutely no way, that's crazy. I'm gonna do the repairs when I have to, but to re-tuck point the whole front of your house just to make the mortar match, if it's not, I mean, if it was half the building, I would see, but.
Well, and since then, I've also had, I mean, since meeting with them, I've spoken to some locals, people active in the community, who also have contacts with excellent tuck pointers who deal with historic old stone buildings and such throughout the city. You know, maybe we need to take a look at something with a little lesser scope of a project, because I don't know that we need to do that right now. I think that, you know, we're going to have to address the bridge's condition in the spring. There's other things that we need to worry about, and certainly we need to figure out what the situation is with the roof, but I don't know that we're going to, like you said, get everything that we're really looking
Get
for.
our bang
in
for
this.
the buck.
And if we're gonna do that, I'd like it to be the entire facility. I mean, the boilers, is there asbestos, where's the lead paint? I mean, if we're gonna spend 20, let's spend 30 or 40 to do the whole thing, and then we know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
But it just feels a little rushed to me.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't think there is any hurry for us to agree to this, since the village seems to not be moving forward that quickly anyway. All right, so, take a look at it if you think that we should, you know, readdress it. I'll keep it on old business for next month, and then you can study it a little further, and we can see where we stand with that. Okay? Anything else under old business that I might have missed? I don't think so. All right, then let's go to new business, and the first thing is the pleasure of our clerk installing the elected official whose term begins the first of the year. So she's already been working under her new elected office, but Fran Sipkowitz, our assessor, who gave us a great report earlier, come on down.
You can stand right over here.
I don't want to see it in front of you.
Oh, that's okay. You can stand on me any day, Fran. I, Fran Sipkowitz,
I, Fran Sipkowitz,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and I will faithfully discharge
and I will faithfully discharge
the duties of the office of assessor to the best of my ability.
the duties of the office of the assessor to the best of my ability.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Fran, do you want to sign this?
And
Right here.
keep up the terrific work.
Yes, we all love you.
Thank you.
And so do the constituents.
They certainly do, they certainly do. And you sound like you
Thanks.
have a cold.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Although isn't she technically working to lower our levy?
No, the levy is what it is. She's just helping the individuals not to have to pay too much. All righty. Onward, adoption of a sexual harassment policy for Riverside Township. The state has passed a law saying that every entity must have this policy by the 15th of January. Technically, it's 60 days from the date of the effective date of the legislation. So, this is partly based on the model ordinance, and it's partly based on our attorney's version of it. He's got a little bit more in the policy than the model from Troy indicated. I went back and forth with him, and so we have both the policy and the ordinance in front of you. It's pretty standard. It follows the law completely. And this would then eventually become part of a revised employee manual that really needs updating. So I would ask for a motion to approve the ordinance, which would be ordinance number 2018-1, very first of the year.
I move to adopt the ordinance.
I have a motion to adopt an ordinance establishing a policy to prohibit sexual harassment in the Township of Riverside, Illinois. Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
I have a second. Any discussion? Then would you please call the vote, Madam Clerk?
Trustee Drapka?
Yes.
Trustee Lufer?
Yes?
Trustee Hollenbach?
Yes.
Supervisor Wilt?
Yes,
Motion carried.
thank you. And you will need our signature on that, on all of those?
Yes, we do.
All righty. The next item.
Mhm. Do I have them sign this, or do I just put their names in?
You know, I think you can just print it. there.
Okay, I'll put them in.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, sure. All righty. Next item then is the preliminary discussion of budget and special meeting dates. I'm not really asking you to discuss the budget at this point. It's just something that we need to start focusing on, because before you know it, budget approval time will be here. So for that purpose, we provided you perhaps another copy of the 2017-2018 budget, which runs through the 31st of March, so that you can review that. You can take that along with the monthly reports that you get of our expenditures and kind of see where we are, and start thinking about if there's more programs that you think we'll need to fund. I think we'll have to make some concessions, or make some plans for some additional costs for the building utilization. However, we also should be getting some income from that as well. That should offset some of those extra costs. So go ahead and start thinking about it, but if any of you want to give me some dates that you think might be good for some preliminary discussions so that we can start meeting about that, I would welcome them. Don't know if you want to start yet this month or maybe early in February. Don't know how people's calendars are shaping up. I know things get kind of crazy right at the beginning of the year.
I am out of town from February 24th to March 4th.
Okay. Good to know.
So that's Saturday to Saturday.
Okay. So last week in February would be bad. Any other dates I should avoid?
I like the Tuesdays. I mean, if we
Tuesdays work for you?
That'd be fine.
Okay, if Tuesdays are good, I generally have a conflict on the third Tuesday myself, but first or fourth Tuesdays could work.
Would a Monday be better? Tuesdays are rough.
Are they rough for you? You have other things going on Tuesdays?
Until I could, yeah, I get out at 7:45. I could get out there at 7:30 if we could push it back a little.
Mondays can be a little crazy.
Mondays are horrible, I know. I prefer
How
not
about,
to
what
do
do
it.
Wednesdays look like for you?
Wednesdays work. Sorry to be the stick in the mud.
Again, second and third Wednesdays would work for me. First and fourth are not good.
Third Wednesday is not good for me.
And that's the mental health, yeah. And the second Wednesday of February is Valentine's Day and Ash Wednesday, if
Oh,
you
yes.
want to see it. How crazy that can be. Well, what do Thursdays look like?
Thursdays are bad too. So I could do Tuesdays.
That's what we have. So
Tuesdays and
Tuesdays
Thursdays
would
are
work
equally
as, okay,
Either one of those wouldn't matter, so.
Okay.
If it's gonna be a Tuesday or Thursday, I don't care.
so how quickly are you guys interested in getting some discussion going on this? You wanna wait until February to start with this? Or do you
No,
want, okay. So we can look at the 23rd or the 30th, if we look at January?
that's fine, whatever.
Either one?
Well, the
Yeah, that's
30th.
fine, 29th and 30th, that works.
No, did I say
23rd
29th?
is a Tuesday?
I said 20, I thought I said 23rd or 30th.
I can't make the 23rd.
Okay. 30th look good?
30th is fine.
30th's fine
Okay.
with me.
Why don't we plan for 30th? January
What
30th?
was wrong with Mondays?
Why?
What was wrong?
That'd be preferred for me.
Are they? I mean, I can adjust mine if that's,
Well, can we, because the 29th is the 5th Monday.
well, that's true. You wanna try, Monday's better for you, Tom?
Much better, yeah.
Okay.
So
As long as it's
Monday
after,
the 29th?
yeah, it has to be after like 6:30, because I'm tied up until then, but, 7 o'clock or
7
so.
o'clock is fine.
7 o'clock on the 29th.
Oh, that's perfect, thank you.
All right.
7:00, 29.
And I'll try to get you try to get some other materials for them. Alrighty, onward then.
Is that a committee of the whole, or is that a?
There'll be a committee of the whole. And we'll send out reminders and post it and such. Alrighty, we have, in your materials, you have, it wasn't really a grant, but it was a request for some support. So, I mean, the library was looking for support of its reading, what was it, reading between the wines? Reading between the wines.
It's a STEAM emphasis on,
Right.
enhance our emphasis on STEAM, science, technology, engineering, arts, and math.
Right.
Is there a particular reason why they didn't submit a grant request?
I have no idea why they chose to go this way. Next month would be their granted, well, probably because it's February 3rd, and we wouldn't meet until then.
Well, they could have requested it for the last one.
I don't know what their schedule was like. That's all I can tell you.
I don't know, I think our hands are tied if you're not gonna submit a grant request.
It'll be too late. All right.
You know what I
We'll
mean?
tell them in the future, we can let them know that in the future, if that's how you all feel, that give them the dates of when our grants are reviewed.
I mean, I don't mind stepping up to the plate, you know, if they run into one thing, but we made this grant request for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
And trust me, I know that we support the public library, we've done it in the past, I would like to continue that, but we have policies and procedures that we have to follow also.
Okay. I will notify them about our grant policy. And we'll table this then? Does somebody want to move to table it then?
I'll move the table.
And a second, I have a motion and a second to table. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion's carried. All right. Just a reminder that educational opportunities are coming up through TOY. So if you're interested in any of these, please let us know so that we can make reservations for you.
So, I got a couple of questions. First of all, tying this into TAC.
Yes.
Because we got a TAC
Yes.
meeting coming up. Did we have to RSVP to you on the TAC?
I did get your RSVP. We still have time to submit that. I haven't heard from anyone else.
I am still on the fence on that. When do you need to know by that?
It's on the 19th, I think, right? And
Yeah.
so, pretty soon.
Um,
Oh, 18th.
18th?
18th.
18th. let me, I'll advise you tomorrow by email.
That's January 18th on a Thursday.
Thursday,
yeah.
And it's in Lombard, right? Okay.
Yes, and that's trustees division, as I recall.
Right. I'll let
So,
you know by then.
with this toy educational district stuff, is there a cost associated with this, or, because...
Registration is $75 per location per person, or $600 per township for up to 9 attendees. We don't have that many that we would send. We're not in the habit of sending staff and such, so.
Right.
Yes, there is a registration cost.
Well, that's for that first page, the education, and that, it looks like the only one that would apply to us would be August 9th in Naperville. But what about this January special? That's 75 per person too, huh, it looks like?
No, it's 75 savings, it looks like it's 225
Right, that's,
For all four.
for all four.
And then what about these webinars?
the webinars, I believe, are free. So anytime you can get in on those are usually lunchtime things. And all of this is published in the magazine as well. So,
Well, I just looking at the webinars, then I didn't know that there was a cost associated with this January special thing.
yes, it's
Um,
there.
But going off the webinar schedule, especially if they're free, I mean, I was looking at some of these, and these would be, I think they would be great for, the workers in the office here to watch, maybe a couple of them, I was interested in some of them, but I think that a lot of them would be great for the workers in our office. And I didn't know if you had to pay for these webinars, because, I didn't know if they're free or what the situation is. So.
Again, I'm pretty sure that those are listed in the Perspective magazine. So I would say look there. I know that the webinars are free. They're like lunch and learn or something like that they like to do them.
Can you give me a little more information on the January 19th township budgeting process? Where is that?
So that coincides with the page before it.
All right.
And
So it doesn't really say.
Yeah, it doesn't say where
No.
it is. Right?
It'll be down in Springfield with my luck. I figure I'd do that.
75 per person, and I think they are at the Springfield
They are
offices.
at
Yes, they're all at
Springfield.
Springfield, which is the problem. And I think they try to do those starting at like 10 so that you can drive in.
Would they be in session at that time? Would the state legislature be in session?
They don't go, not on the 19th, they're not back in session yet.
There's your answer. And I think that there are limits to how many people can attend these too, because it's at their offices, they are fairly small. So certainly the budgeting process looks to be one that I would certainly like to see. I don't need to know about township cemeteries because we don't have any, but,
Could we encourage our office workers to attend these webinars and take a look at them?
sure, I can,
I just think that they would be very beneficial, useful information.
Sure.
For them, so.
I can schedule them to do that right in the office.
What day of the week is the 19th?
19th is a Friday. And I know traditionally that's the third Friday, so I've already got that's a general assistance day when my people come in, so it's hard for me to get away on a third Friday.
Yeah, I just can't do it.
Yeah. Alrighty, well, there you have it, and if you want to inquire more, I can look into some more information, but I'll certainly, on the webinar schedule, I'll try to get staff to do those. Anything else? Then moving right along, we're up to FYI. You've already heard the first one. Fran gave that report. Yeah, we got the notice not sent to us, but that gives you the idea of where the location is. The map shows the arrow to it.
So I also have another question on that, and I was waiting to bring that up under this part. I didn't want to bring it up when we were talking about something else. So can like, we get a rundown of what exactly is going on with that? Because I have heard zero on Riverside Lawn. Absolutely nothing.
Well, like Fran indicated, they've been promising to tear down buildings for almost a year now.
Yeah. I mean, Tim and I went to, or Trustee Allenbach and I went to a thing with the Cook County Land Bank back in, what was it, May, April?
It was
They
warm out.
Yeah, and they were saying that they were gonna tear it down over
In
the
the
summer.
spring.
Right.
And now nothing. Nothing's been going on, absolutely nothing.
Well, Trustee Drapka, I do believe that they ran into a little bit of a problem with that historical house. And that seems to have held up everything, because I just drove through there not more than 3 weeks ago. And, you know, nothing's changed,
No.
other than there's nobody around.
Correct.
So,
Yeah. It's a little spooky back there these days.
well, yeah.
So many abandoned houses and all.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would choose to be one of those people who has remained, you know.
But, so I think that may be part of the problem, is that historical house. That just puts a brake on everything. But I'm kind of curious as to what's going on back there too. I mean, are we still plowing back there?
Yeah.
What's the situation with the fire protection district?
They get their services from Lions, I think.
Yes, and that's fine.
Did that agreement get renewed? I remember that they had come to a township meeting.
Yes, it was renewed, and they're just going to do it with the residents that have stayed. I also reached out to Chief Buckley here at Riverside. If Lions didn't want to do it, I reached out to Chief Buckley, and he said he would absolutely provide them with fire and ambulance service if need be. All we would have to do is just ask.
Okay.
So they're still covered?
Yes.
Good.
All right, well, yeah, so that's just to let you know what we do or don't hear from them. And I am going to be following up, because Fran gave me somebody in the building and zoning department that she has contact with, and see what I can find out into what their intentions are, why they're even allowing building there, or what their thoughts are.
It's just crazy. I still
know.
can't get over there.
Well, in this location, granted, it's away from the area that they designated as the 100-year floodplain, but it's still really close. I don't know that I would build, but that's not my decision. All right, onward. We have this letter, these petitions actually, from Hauser Junior High, and I know that there's been some stuff in the paper about it too. They've written to pretty much everyone. Their request here has to do with us providing some composting. It's really not in our power to do so. I'm certainly not going to bring composting inside the building, and that's what we own. The land outside is the village's. So, and I know that they wrote a similar letter to the village. So, just letting you know that we got all of these lovely notes from them, and I will, with your permission, just respond to them that it's very noble of them to be concerned with the earth and doing what they're doing, but we're not in a position to assist them with this. Okay?
Very good.
Yes.
And then just want you to know, apparently at some point, they must have shared motor fuel tax fund money. As you can see, there's no change in this. It was just a report that I received of what's standing there, and I looked back at other reports, and it doesn't look like anything's been added to that in a very long time. So they simply have to maintain some money that was assigned to us, and it probably isn't enough for them to pay out. I'm guessing it was an error. And that brings us up to the approval of the warrants. I've summarized if anybody wants to lead the charge today.
Trustee Heilenbach moves that the board authorizes and ratify payment for the bills identified on the general warrant for, stand by, January 9th, 2018, in the amount of $11,708.01 as presented to this board on the 9th day of January 2018.
I think it's 707. I think I might have miswritten.
What is it?
11,707. Is that what
That's
everything is on the
708
report?
here. It's 707, I can
Yeah,
tell you.
that's
Yes, it is.
That's because I can't read and write at the same
That's all
time.
right. Let me redo this.
All right.
All right, take two. Trustee Heilenbach moves that the board authorize and ratify payment of the bills identified on the general warrant for January 9th, 2018 in the amount of $11,707.01 as presented to the board this 9th day of January 2018.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Please call the roll.
Trustee Lufer?
Yes.
Trustee Hollenbach?
Yes.
Trustee Drapka?
Yes.
Supervisor Wilt?
Yes.
Motion carried.
I do have a question on one of these,
Yes.
and it's more a point of order than, or clarification. How many people, how many seniors are using the senior exercise class per month? Is it,
So per month, well, understand it happens twice a week. And they have, it varies. The most I think we've seen was 13.
I've heard that they've had 15 up there, but with the winter months,
Yeah.
you're
Right.
not going to get the participation.
And, yeah, fortunately, there were no classes scheduled during that really bad deep freeze. They finished up
Right.
before. But it also doesn't get the promotion I'd like to see. We're trying to get some of those items going because he's a very popular instructor.
yeah, he's a great guy. I'm just wondering if there's not a better way to deliver that service?
I know. Something we should look at when it comes time again.
That's always interesting.
All right, on to utility warrants and others.
Utility warrant in the amount of $1,995.21. Payroll warrant in the amount of $16,499.30. Health warrant in the amount of $1,609.90. Grants in the amount of $5,000. Petty cash in the amount of $168.53. General assistant warrant in the amount of $900. Township radio players warrant in the amount of $200. Food pantry warrant in the amount of $547.58. All of the above presented to this board on the 9th day of January 2018.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Hear a motion and a second. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Trustee Hollenbach?
Yes.
Trustee Drapka?
Yes.
Trustee Lufer?
Yes.
Supervisor Wilt?
Yes.
Motion carried.
if there is no further business, then we're, oh, yes.
Hi, since I'm here, do
Sure.
you mind if I speak back to, under FYI, item number B, the Hauser Junior High students' request? So I was thinking maybe one way for the township board to support it, if in fact the village does approve the compost bin to be outside, maybe you could approve posting a sign in the kitchen to say these are the types of things that go in the compost bin, which is located outside the building, wherever it happens to be. Just a comment.
Thank you, that's a good idea. All right, anything else?
Just speak on that, no, I'm sorry. The only thing we really have and generate would be the landscape waste. And I'm sure we could convince our landscaper to compost his waste as a sign of support.
Okay.
I was thinking kitchen waste, but you're right, there's landscape waste.
Yeah.
Thank you for those recommendations. And landscape light. Okay, then I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So I move to adjourn?
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion is carried. That was the most lackluster motion to